Welcome to Strata. I'm Glen.
And I'm Brandon. Welcome to the Minds on Muscle podcast. All right, everybody. So welcome back to another episode of Minds on Muscle. Today, Glen and we're in a gym, so you can hear some gym stuff in the background. But as well as being in the gym, we are here with one of our esteemed colleagues, Strata Internal Performance Muscle System Specialist and Exercise Professional, Mr. Eric Patchell. Eric, welcome.
What's going on, everybody? Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Mr. Glen, you are remote.
I am remote today. That's on me. We had a miscommunication, but as we do at Strata, we find a way to make it work, and that is why we are exercise professionals.
So Glen got shipped off to Tahiti to a white prison where you're stuck in a white-on-white room being decontaminated for COVID. No, just kidding. All right. Well, yeah, no, we're just kind of getting back into the swing of things, and for a little while, Glen and I will be doing this cool little back and forth thing, which I'm excited about. But today I think it'll be really fun to learn a little bit more about Mr. Patchell.
That is me.
So Eric, tell us a huge thing. Tell us what's your favorite thing about doing this podcast before we even jump in.
Ooh, my favorite thing about the podcast before doing it. Wow. I'm going to go with doing it with you two guys. My esteemed colleagues, a couple of good-looking guys here. I'm excited to talk to you today.
Nice guy.
Right answer.
Yes. So I think a great way to jump in is if I think Glen and I, maybe we could ask some questions of Eric and then just kind of have a free discourse from there. How do you feel about that, sir?
Sounds all right, man.
Mr. Glendon, what do you want to know about Eric?
Well, so it's funny because Eric and I are colleagues, but I joined the gym just before COVID happened, and Eric and I got to chatting a little bit, but not too much. And then obviously we didn't see each other for months on end because of said COVID. And so, I'd love to hear, Eric, if you don't mind telling us and for the people at home, maybe, how you got in the industry and why. What drove you to be here? Because, Strata doesn't have people who are kind of half in, half out. Strata's got exercise professionals who are all in and they want to make a difference in people's lives. So I'd love to hear kind of how you fell into the industry and why this is something that you love to do.
Yeah, thanks, man. Well, I appreciate your curiosity about me, and I look forward to having more of these conversations with you in the future. But yeah, as it goes for me, I feel like when I really decided I wanted to do this, is when I was actually struggling with my own issues, to be honest with you. I was an athlete growing up. I played basketball at first, and I was a pretty competitive tennis player after that. And then I was actually having some issues after I kind of stopped playing tennis and was getting towards the gym and had injuries here and there. One of my biggest things was my back and my left knee, actually. And I found Brandon actually one day. I had known him for many years before, actually doing a co-op while I was in high school. I kind of stumbled onto him again, and luckily I found my muscle system specialist to actually help me out in my injuries and my little nicks and knacks that were going on with my body. And I figured at the ripe age, I was around 22, 23 at the time, something like that, when I reconnected with Brandon, and figured if I'm a young 22, seemingly healthy young person, there's probably some people who are a little older than me and might have some own things going on with their body too, and they might need some help as well. And I figured, why not? I'm already kind of studying this stuff myself. I think I could probably help these people out.
Right. And so was it just like is it the love of muscles, or is it like the working with people that you really enjoy? Is there any one particular aspect of it that has really driven you to be involved in the muscle system, the muscle system specialist work, but also as an exercise professional?
Yeah, I think it's mainly the people, to be honest with you. I've been blessed enough to meet some really cool people over the years here working at Strata. Besides you guys are great and all, but I love my clients too. They're awesome. I love coming in and seeing the people I see on a weekly basis or monthly basis, whatever it is I see them. It's awesome to see them again and talk to them. And it's been great seeing some faces again for the first time in a while, actually, since this whole COVID-19 situation has been happening. So I actually ran into someone I haven't seen in a long time today, and it was great to see them and chat with them just briefly before our study group today. So it's been really cool meeting new people and helping them on their journeys.
That's awesome. I love, Eric, I love your story. I think is really interesting because for a lot of people, especially with the way that I market the business and many other businesses that do muscle system specialist work, if you will, I think a lot of people think that broken people, really injured people, and older people are the only people that we really work with. But it really is, in my opinion, people like you, 22-year-olds who are struggling with injuries and can't play the sport that they love, that really need more support and more education. But the exercise education for young people, I mean, it's really, actually it is out there, but most 22-year-olds are not prepared to hear it. What they hear is, oh, well, I'm not that broken person. I'm actually doing okay. What I would actually rather do is I want to do some Olympic lifts. I'll just do another form of exercise. And what do you think it was for you as a 22-year-old that kind of went, well, I'm hurting. I got to do something different than what other people are doing, and this looks like a good option.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good point you brought up there, and I'm totally with you on that one. So when I was first, I think, getting one of my first injuries that was kind of stopping me from doing the things I really wanted to do was, I think I would have been in college at the time, and I was kind of learning I went to school with Taylor, actually, who you guys talked with a few weeks ago, I guess. We went to Durham College together, actually, in the same fitness and health program.
They were roommates.
Yeah, we were roommates.
Really?
Second year, yeah.
Did that just happen like out of coincidence, or did you guys like know it, like choose like, hey, you go to Strata, hey, you know muscles, and like you guys was it like, or was it just pure happenstance?
It was a lot before Strata was even a thing, actually. So college for us was probably 2012, 2013, I want to say. And so we both grew up in Newmarket. He went to high school around here. I went to a different high school, but we had some mutual friends. And then so in first year, we would have met in one of our first early courses. And he kind of introduced myself and said, like, he knew who I was from some people that he knew that I went to public school with at his high school. So kind of connected that way. And he was kind of the smart bodybuilding guy of the group we kind of made down there. And he kind of helped us out with our routines and things that we were doing there, and helping us with the little tricks that he had, or little knowledge tips that he had too. So it was pretty cool meeting Taylor, obviously. Now we're getting really sidetracked from what we were just talking about. But yeah. Importance of young people kind of figuring out what's going on. Again, I was getting some education about this stuff. So I thought at that young age, well, why is this happening? I'm learning all this cool and fun stuff. I think it sounds pretty good. Why am I hurting myself? Why is this lift hurting me? So I figured, what better thing to maybe ask someone who's in the business, who's a professional or whatever it is that they're doing. At that time, I didn't know what the heck a muscle system specialist was or anything like that. But I kind of went out on the whim here and figured, I'm going to go talk to this guy, see what he has to say, and see, can they help me or not? I didn't want to be, and going into my later 20s and still doing this bodybuilding thing and continuing to hurt myself, because I thought that was a risk. And I was not prepared to let that happen to me.
It's funny because I feel like we all had to go through this curve of like, I want to do the sexy deadlift strength training thing, like all the stuff that people put on Instagram that is very appealing. And then it really takes getting hurt or getting injured or something to that end to make us start questioning, hey, why are we doing things this way? Is there potentially a better way? I wish I had found this community as early as you did. And even Strata, like I told Brandon, and I think not too long ago, I was like, man, I wish I had jumped on the Strata wagon, 5 years ago when you first made me the invitation. And I did. And then I backed out of it because it was too far away. And I thought there's other opportunities that were going to be better. And I told them, like, one of the, I don't really believe in living life with regrets necessarily, but I told them, I really wish I had jumped on here sooner, because I really think we would have gotten farther, right? And this comes up in many podcasts, and I say it over and over again. I love the Strata mantra of you go faster by yourself, but farther together. And that's really what this is, right? To kind of go back to what I was just riffing off of before, is it's just interesting to me how we have to kind of go through those ups and downs and our own bumps and bruises before we get to this. How do I train intelligently and start working with my body in a way that makes sense for me, that's appropriate? It's just funny how it takes beating ourselves up a whole bunch to get there. It's weird to me that like you can't just wake up at the age of 22 and be like, I'm rational, I feel great, but how can I do this better? Like, that just is not a thought that too many young people have. So I think that's awesome that you found everything as young as you did.
And the rethinking of exercise, I think that's a really interesting thing, because I think, like you're saying, I think I think of it, almost everybody that works here as a younger, healthier person. I don't want to say like that they're all young, but people at their younger ages, I think everybody here had some profound injury. And then when you have that injury, you kind of have this fork in the road. And I think the majority of folks go, oh, this is just part of the process. I do exercise. It's going to hurt. So that's fun. I'm just going to wait and then it'll get better and I'll go back to the thing that I was doing. But I think there's a small group of people that go, wait a second, this doesn't make sense. I'm doing the thing I was told to do, but I'm getting hurt. I shouldn't get hurt in the process. And I think that it takes a lot more energy to really rethink your whole thought process to go, well, as a tennis player, I exercise like this, right? The whole people like me exercise like this. Well, what if you keep getting hurt like that? Does that mean people like you who exercise like this should hurt all the time? And that's just crazy. And I mean, you see it echoing now where you see people who are old school exercise mentalities and they still have gyms and fitness centers and they still exercise the exact same way they have their entire life, that their entire exercise career is sort of getting in shape, injuring themselves, getting some weight, sort of getting in shape, injuring themselves, getting back. And it's this triangle that just never stops. So I think, a 22-year-old, Glenn, at whatever age for you when you started rethinking it, whatever age it was, it doesn't matter. I think it's just that you did rethink it, which is just absolutely amazing. Eric, if you don't mind me asking, if you were going to go talk, like you said you went to school for health and fitness promotion.
Yep.
Imagine you were going to go do a presentation to 100 people you've never met before that had just started off the class. Is there a piece of advice or something that you would give that group of 100 people to maybe have them rethink how they're thinking about fitness to help them get maybe somewhere where you are today?
Yeah. I think it might be just talking to them about how I think they should really think more so about all these techniques and forms and the way that they're being taught that they should be doing things, such as I remember being in some of the classes as well, and even having little epiphanies there, thinking about why I work on my own, but this professor is telling me this is the way you're performing this lat pull down exercise, but I've done it in the gym a little bit different way, and I find I can feel things a little bit better, and it works a little bit better for me. So I think what I'm trying to say here is rethinking this whole one exercise fits everybody thing, or this is how you should be doing this exercise to do it correctly. So I think, as we all know, we've worked with a lot of different people with different limb lengths and different, just the bodies have made very, very differently between you, me, Glenn here, and everybody else, that we should probably be doing a lot of these things differently than everybody, just so we can kind of get the most bang for a buck from each and every exercise and not hurt ourselves while doing it. If we're all doing them the exact same way, I have my femur here that's really long, Brandon's not quite as long as mine. Should we really be squatting the same way? Probably not. I think that's probably the one thing I would want to tell myself back then, as well as maybe some of these 100 or so students at the time too, is really rethink the way we have to be doing things or have to be doing things.
Where do you think the best place they could start would be?
Oh, that's a good question.
Right? That's a great piece of advice, but if you were going to say, hey, here's one thing that you could go do right away to start thinking about people being different than one another and everyone needs to do something different, how could they start?
Well, you're stumping me in here today there, Brandon. He's got some good questions today. I think I would say just trying some of these things, like the squat, the bench, the deadlift, all those big lifts that people love. I think some people should get a little, like, the best thing I think for me in college anyways was when myself and Taylor and another couple of friends of ours kind of got together and we're doing the lifts and things and kind of seeing how we were all performing things, and all kind of this natural different thing that we had. We had a guy with a big barrel chest doing a bench press all the way down to his chest, whereas me, I have pretty long arms and kind of a short, narrow rib cage. I'd kind of be doing things, stopping a little bit closer towards my chest because I found kind of above my shoulder and things like that. I'm not sure if that's exactly the best piece, but I don't think about the top of my head right now for just trying this stuff out. But yeah, I guess kind of looking at other people, looking at your colleagues, is kind of seeing how they do their exercises, how they're doing their movements, and seeing, does that make sense for me? And maybe the way they're doing it might not be the best way for everybody.
Yeah, I really love that, and what I think you're saying right now reminds me of is this whole concept, and I think this is another way of saying is lab time. So many people will learn things in class, but they won't actually take the time to go out and apply it and challenge their thinking. So to give an example, Brandon, after every study group says, hey, take an exercise and break it down. Look at these, look at the resistance profile, the strength profile of the exercise. And it's important to actually have that time to go and evaluate. Because if you're not taking action, you're not going to grow and you're not going to change. I have a business coach and psychotherapist I see, and he essentially says, he's like, it's great that we can sit and talk for an hour and a half, Glenn, every week or every other week, but unless you're taking some kind of new action to drive different behavior and to learn and grow, none of this is going to make any difference. And I think that's probably to your benefit, and also to all of our benefits and the people that you work with, which is like, hey, when you're going through your own exercise sessions, you're trying different things, you're re-examining things. That's essentially how we grow, right? And the final thing I'll say is that great Albert Einstein quote, I think it might even be behind you there. I'm not sure if that's the one or not, but is that the creativity, like knowledge is the source of creativity? Is that the one?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, could you read it off? Could you read it there? Could you read it word for word?
Oh, no, it's not. Education is not the learning of many facts, but the training of the mind to think.
Well, that's a great one too.
Same vein.
Yeah.
Different quote, but same vein.
Same vein, but it's the whole, the Albert Einstein quote I'm thinking of, I might be paraphrasing, is, knowledge is the source of all creativity, which is to say that the more knowledge you have, the more better you're going to be at applying such knowledge so that you can respond and adapt to these circumstances, which is probably what makes you such a great practitioner, is that you've spent so much lab time trying different things and seeing what works and what doesn't, that you've got more tools in your toolbox to help all your clients.
Yeah. I think it's funny you say that. So I'm actually, and I know this is my first time announcing it, but within the facility, I'm starting a new educational group. It's not like an education group, which is basically an exercise professional development group. I'm calling it Project Stratum. And it's really because over the last 5 years, I believe that over the 8 to 10 hours each month they do study groups here, there's been a tremendous amount of information that people hear. But in my opinion, it's how you apply it, when you apply it, and how often you try to really customize it and be creative with it, kind of like Glenn alluded, that really turns into being a successful individual. The Einstein quote, the knowledge is the source of all creativity, I would agree, but in some regards, I think creativity takes a lot of work. And it's one of the reasons, if you've heard of previous podcasts, I recommend people, pick a piece of art, pick painting or drawing or a musical instrument, and practice being really creative in a very limited outlet, because the more creative you can be in an abstract form, you can apply it to other things. And there are two quotes I love, and you've heard me say them before, but how you do one thing is how you do everything. And I really do believe that if you kind of just go into autopilot when you go into the gym, you're probably going through autopilot on a lot of lots of parts of life. And then second, which is the quote that's tattooed on my arm, which is the first quote that my late mentor, Peter Chasen, used to say, it is historical continuity that maintains most assumptions, not a repeated assessment of their validity. So the easiest thing is you go, hey, Eric, you're going to the gym. Hey, next time you're doing a deadlift, take 20 minutes and do a few reps, but each rep, think about each body part. How do your feet feel? What do you notice with your feet? Hey, what do you notice with your knees? Hey, what do you notice with your hip and your back? And have people just pay attention to those different parts of their body. And I guarantee you, if you have someone, you just ask them to be present in their body and hyper-focus on one piece in a way they've never done before, they're going to feel different things. And maybe not necessarily do things better, but I think the thinking part of it and the becoming more aware of your body, being present, will dramatically modify the exercise experience, which is, I don't know, super nerdy and fun.
So on the note of awareness, I got another question for Eric that I'd love to get your opinion or your ideas on here. Is in the vein of awareness, what is the one thing in the past 12 months, the past year, that you've been acutely aware of as a fitness and exercise professional?
For myself, or just in the fitness industry in general, or
whatever comes to mind, right? Whatever comes to mind. But we can start with yourself. It's probably if that's a great positive constraint. Like, what's something that you've been really aware of in the past year when it comes to exercise and health for yourself and for your clients?
Probably that I think exercise as a tool is just probably one of the most important things for everybody, to be honest. Actually, I can think of a very, very recent story, actually, to be honest with you. Last Friday, actually, I rolled my ankle playing sports, which, unfortunately happens from time to time. I know Brandon's shaking his head at me right now. Sports, rolling your ankle, no good.
Sports are dumb.
In a sense, I agree with you, yeah. So the thing, what I'm trying to say here is, I think me being this person who's in the exercise field, I do my workouts, I try to take care of myself as best I can. I found honestly that when I do have these things pop up, that unfortunately, they can, if we're doing things like sports or even gardening or whatever it may be, things can happen to our body sometimes. I find us, as long as we are exercising, taking as good as care as our muscular health as we can, at least when those things happen, we're better prepared for those instances. So for me and my clients and you, Brandon here and Glenn, the good thing about us is that we are trying to do our best to take care of ourselves and be prepared when these things happen. And honestly, I found so far I've had pretty good recovery so far within my ankle. I've felt pretty good. I think I'm going to be working out some ankle mobility stuff for myself today, just because I found when I've been taking better care of myself and knowing what my body can and cannot tolerate, I recover a lot better. And things like this ankle roll I had on just last Friday, they seem to get a lot better, a lot more quickly, which is great for me.
That's very like meta, like you're aware of the awareness that you have that exercise ought to be done for everybody. You're like just like aware of that awareness, which I think is fantastic. And I think that's often something that people forget or miss, is that exercise isn't just about like being strong and feeling great, but there's also this resiliency factor that comes in. And especially as people get older, and a lot of my clients I work with over the age of 45, 50, getting to 65, I had an assessment with someone yesterday who was 68. And for them, it's like resiliency. It's like getting injured less often or hurting themselves less often. And sometimes you don't even realize it, right? There are people who, before they started exercising, get sick 6 or 7 times a year. And all of a sudden they're exercising for a year, and you ask them, how many times you've been sick this year? They're like, oh, well, actually, I don't really remember, maybe once, maybe twice. And that just kind of shows the efficacy of how exercise actually helps you be healthier and be more fit. But it's not always just gaining strength, gaining mobility. It's also, not feeling as bad as often when things do go awry. Because as much as we like to be totally bulletproof and injury-proof human beings, we can't predict everything. And the strength of your body helps dictate how great you're going to feel over your life cycle.
Here's a random question that's not really Eric specific, but I'm going to ask you, and then we can chat about it. Do you think sports are healthy?
Brandon. I got to give you a yes or no answer here.
No, you could tell me whatever you want. We're on a podcast. We're having a conversation.
That's true.
Yes.
Honestly, I think I want to say no, to be honest with you. I want to say no, and I love sports. I'm playing tennis again. I've probably quit for about 5 years, I want to say, and came back to it, and I've loved it ever since. I just need a little break for myself, and I'm still playing. I really like it now, but I think there's a lot of people out there who see sports or walking or gardening, whatever it is, as their form of exercise, whereas as long as my thinking is, I don't think a sport is really exercise. All these sports like the football, tennis, basketball, whatever it is, they all kind of have this goal: get the ball over the net, get the ball in the hoop, get the ball past the 1 yard line, whatever it is. And we're kind of all sacrificing our bodies and crazy joint movements that we're doing during these sports to get towards this goal, whatever means necessary. We just kind of get from point A to point B, no matter what, which in my eyes is not necessarily the safest thing to be doing for our bodies. Whereas why I like working with myself and my clients in this controlled scenario anyways, where we can just contract the tissues that we're looking to contract and not injure somebody, theoretically anyways, by being in this controlled scenario and keeping them as safe as possible while doing these things.
So as a competitive athlete, like someone who plays tennis, and you go to tennis and you think, okay, wait, sports aren't healthy, but I like this sport. What's the juggling point, and when, in your opinion, does the desire and the love for the thing and the unhealthiness and the problems that come from it, when does the unhealthiness get to the point that you go, or you think that someone should go, I should probably stop this sport?
Yeah. I think the injury piece is going to be a really, really big point for me, for sure.
How many injuries until someone stops? I've got 5 injuries. I think this is a good point to stop.
That's it. I've had 5. That's all I'm going to do. Well, I mean, I think both can be manageable, but I think it's a tough thing to accomplish both. I've found with myself and my own exercise regimen and playing tennis, I think I've found something that's been working for me very well for right now. For in terms of, I've been trying to figure out how much intensity I can put into the gym, how often can I actually play tennis, and can I find that right balance for me that will allow me to do both. I think that it is possible to do both. I guess to get back to your initial question, anyways, I'm not sure exactly how many injuries or how much risk am I willing to take for these kind of things, but I think you can find a balance between them both. Obviously, when you love something like that, if your thing is like me, it's tennis. I love tennis. I love to play tennis. It's really hard to give something up that you love, obviously, but I find if we are able to, and I think I have been so far anyways, been able to take care of myself and my body enough where I can do both, I'm going to continue to do both. If I find there's a point where I can't do both, obviously I'm going to have to take out one of those things. And judging by myself and my knowledge about things, it would probably be tennis, because it has been tennis in the past too, where I had some things that were going on with my body, and I figured, let's just take out tennis for some time and see what happens with my body. Does it get better? Do I feel better? And can I get back to it later on?
So then here's the question. When is the point that the injuries and the pains get to the point that you have to stop? How do you know you've gotten to that point?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I'm unsure if I could, to be honest with you. See, it's a difficult thing there, obviously, to stop that and to really find out when is when. When is that point?
I think that's interesting. Glenn, what do you think about that?
Well, I mean, I was going to say it's a challenging question because there's a lot of people that don't like exercise. Like I see people that come see me where they're like, I don't love exercising. I'm having a hard time ever finding out how to enjoy it, but I know it's something I ought to do to keep my body together and feeling good. Versus we love sports because of the things they get us. Like I really missed playing soccer for many years, not necessarily because of soccer, but because of the camaraderie between my friends. And there's a group of friends who I didn't speak to or I wasn't very close with for a number of years because I was no longer showing up to soccer because, as like Eric was talking about with his back, I blew out my left knee. I got my results back not too long ago. I have no ACL on my left side. And even just the other day, like I got down off a step and I had this incredible pain and I fell to the ground because I just hit the ground awkwardly in like a totally, closed environment in which I should be okay. And so where I'm getting with that is this idea that like for some people, that's just what makes them feel alive, whether it's like hitting the tennis ball or spending time with their friends. And, there has to be some sort of balance struck between like doing your thing, whether it's recreationally or if you want to do it competitively, or maybe you find a way. Like for some people, like, and coaches say this all the time in sports, I love coaching 10 times more than I like playing. And so maybe it doesn't look like I play soccer anymore. Maybe it doesn't look like I compete in jiu-jitsu, but maybe it looks like I coach it and I get the kind of reward from that. I think, I think maybe the question, at least for me, isn't so much like, how do we necessarily balance the sports that we like and doing the exercise to keep our bodies together, the trade-off, but it's like, how do we go about enjoying that activity in different ways such that it's not to the detriment of our system and that we can go about in loving life? Because I think there are multiple ways to do things. I mean, we see people that like, there are people that lose their arms and they love to paint and they just learn to paint with holding a little pen in their feet. And they make like honestly amazing, beautiful art. You can find examples of this. It's not like one or two people. There's tons of people like that. So I think now we open up a little bit more and start thinking to ourselves, well, how do we just go about enjoying this activity without maybe the same physical cost as there was before? That's kind of where my mind goes as like a jump off point to your question, Brandon, and your answer, Eric.
I don't, it's funny. I think about this very, very black and white. And when I talk to a client, I really don't, because to a client, I want them to continue to do what they love for as long as possible. But I do think there's a point of diminishing return where you have to be able to say, Eric, we've been working together for 3 years. I know you love tennis. You're kind of like that guy from Monty Python and the Holy Grail and your limbs are falling off and we got some serious problems. Maybe we should look at stop doing tennis for a little while. Now, that's a hard conversation. But I think, and it's weird. I was thinking about this on my walk this morning with young Maxwell and the stroller. I have many revelations when I'm walking with the stroller. sports to some degree are really unhealthy. There's a lot of things that humans do that are unhealthy that we love to do, right? We all love to eat cake. We know cake's probably going to knock us on our butt if we eat too much cake, but it's still an unhealthy thing. He's a cake eater.
I love
right?
cake.
Cake's great.
Right? So many things like that. But it's, as a professional, if you're listening to this and you're not a personal trainer, exercise professional, or a therapist, there's this weird conversation that you have to come prepared to have with someone, that you look at someone like Eric and you go, well, look at this young, healthy individual. And he goes, my knees bleed every time I play tennis. Every time I do, it hurts. I can't walk for 14 days, but I love it so much, I'm going to keep doing it. And I think it's an interesting thought process that if you're listening to this, to go, hey, what is the one physical thing you love to do? When is it that your body stops you from doing it? And how do you know that you've gotten there? I just think it's such a weird thing to think about. But black and white, to me, it's like, well, tennis is hurting you. I just take away that thing. But then there's this desire of, I love this racket-based sport. So I don't know. It's a funny conversation. I thought it would be an interesting lateral conversation for an athlete like Mr. Tennis Patchell over here.
It's funny how, like, I wake up first thing in the morning and it's a fresh day. We haven't really expended any of that mental energy yet. I just had my cup of coffee. It's 30 minutes in. And I say to myself, you know what? I can do everything today. It's going to be amazing. It's fantastic. I'm just going to eat vegetables and protein and lean meats all day and healthy fats. I'm going to be productive all day. And then as you go through your day, that rationalization and that control starts to dwindle a little bit. And you can develop self-discipline, don't get me wrong. But there's a certain amount of mental energy we have where after a certain point, it becomes very hard to push through things. And then we get to 5 p.m. and you're playing tennis for 30 minutes. And that if you play for another 15, that's when no bueno bleeding knees territory is going to happen. And that little voice in our heads, I'm just saying this as an example. This is not like an Eric thing. This is a generalization. The little voice in our head is saying rationally is like, you should stop. But that emotional side is like, crush this person for the next 3 games. Take no prisoners. Right. So it's just funny how over time, even though we can be most rational about something, that like Brent says, a little emotional voice in our head that says this is immensely pleasurable. Afterwards, we can have some cake and stay up and watch movies all night, right? I don't do that, but it's just funny how that takes over, right? And this would be an interesting thing. So I guess maybe this is our last question that we can get to the our famous ending is, how do you, Eric, think that we start to build this thought process of rationality, decision making, and having more resiliency and good decision making, even when we know that we're about to do something that's not a good idea?
Yeah, that's a really great question there, Glenn, to be honest with you. I'm not sure if I have the answer to that one, to be frank with you. It's such a hard thing for everyone does. I'm 28 years old right now. I think I have a pretty sturdy head on my shoulders for the most part. At least that's what Brandon tells me once in a while.
Well, you're going to keep all your hair on your head for until at least 2 more years, and then you got 30, and then it goes downhill.
Downhill from there. That's what they keep telling me. Yeah,
trail behind you of hair.
But it's a really, really hard thing, to be honest with you. Even myself, who I'm talking about me and how I love to play tennis, and I think I've had this pretty good balance going on right now with my weight training and my tennis. But when is it that everyone else is gonna realize this type of thing, that there has to be this balance with these things, with this cake, with this sport, with whatever this thing is that is hurting us, and with this other thing that might be really good for us on the other side of the coin too. Again, I don't know if I'm the one who knows exactly when others are going to realize this kind of thing. It took, like we kind of talked about at the beginning too, I guess it's this big catastrophic injury that really cripples us, that stops us from doing this thing that we love for an extended period of time, where that's when we finally realize that we have to make a change. But I really hope that's not the answer, to be honest with you. That would not be a good thing.
I think you need to have, and I think everybody should have some set form of checks and balances, because it's, in my opinion, it's just so irrational that, oh, my knee fell off. Okay, I'm going to stop playing tennis now. This was it. I've only got one leg, right? There should be some amount that you go, okay, well, things are getting bad, but I'm not dead yet. Okay, I'm going to stop and we're going to recalibrate here, you know?
Yeah, and it seems like an obvious decision to me. But is that the obvious decision to everybody?
Oh,
No.
Yeah, no,
No.
you can't go to a 22-year-old and be like, by the way, when you ache in 3 spots, you're done.
Yeah.
Right? No one starts off sports like that.
Well, I was going to say, I think it's apparent from just some of you stuff you shared, Eric, which is this awareness piece is often like the very first thing, which is like having the awareness to know something's not right. And if I don't change what I'm doing right now, it could go very wrong for me, right? It's like noticing the red cards. And I think that's kind of what Brandon's talking about when he says checks and balances, is having some awareness to begin with, right? That there's even a problem going on. And from there, you can start to evaluate, right?
Now, on that note, which I think is an incredible point, before I kind of do this little thing I'm going to do you have anything important that you want to share to the Blue Yeti microphone? Anything that we haven't talked about that you wanted to say?
Not that I'm thinking off the top of my head, no.
Any shout-outs or sponsors?
Shoutouts. No sponsors, unfortunately. Maybe one day,
Red Bull, we're coming for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we like to do now, we're going to do this thing called Pick of the Week. I'm sure you've listened to all the episodes, so you know exactly what Pick of the Week is.
Every single one, baby.
Excellent. So what I think we'll do is Glenn and I will go through our Pick of the Week, which is an item, an object, a thing, a service, something that really inspired us this week that we think that other people could benefit from, that really changed our week. Cool. Sound good? So Glenn, what's your Pick of the Week there, superstar?
I will be, in the words of Brandon, I'll be concise over expansive. My pick of the week is hot spring hot tubs. So we got a hot tub at our new place. We just moved into 4 days ago. Came with a hot tub, and I love it. Not because it's a hot tub and I get to be in soup, but because I think it's a great way to actually unwind at the end of the day. So that nice kind of bath or hot tub sensation I get for 20 or 30 minutes is a great way to relax and put me in a nice, I think it's parasympathetic state before I go to bed, and my sleep's important to me. And having some time before bed, an hour to relax, is important for me because it helps me reset myself for the next day. And I think the hot spring hot tub does that for me. So my pick of the week is a 20-minute hot tub session in the hot spring hot tub in my backyard. That's Glen Owen's pick of the week.
Beautiful. Mine is actually a cheesy one, and it is this thing right here. It is actually going to be the Blue Yeti microphone. If you guys have been listening to the show for a while, I've been big into learning more about technology and productivity. And at the moment, I'm trying to figure out how to take a lot of the process we do at Strata and going digital. But as you guys can imagine, doing things like this with Glen and Eric, being able to communicate clear, concisely, and digitally for an affordable microphone, this Blue Yeti microphone is awesome. And honestly, it came from Glen's referral. I don't think it was a pick of the week for you. It may have been, but if it was, I'm stealing it. And if it wasn't, then I absolutely recommend it. If you're someone who plays video games, does video conferences, whatever you do and you need clear, concise communication, I definitely recommend the Blue Yeti. It's got 3 different little microphones in it that pick up kind of omnidirection or a focus direction. Again, to Glen's referral, but I picked the Blue Yeti microphone. So Eric, what was your pick of the week?
For my pick of the week, I'm going to go with the mighty Lake Huron, to be honest with you. Yeah, so my girlfriend's family has a cottage out there, and I think it's a fantastic place to go, watch the sunset, beautiful calm water, and just kind of rewind and relax, and helps you kind of recover and just relax from a long, stressful week.
Did you have to one-up Glen's bro stew backyard thing to go with like the biggest body of water you could think of?
Honestly, that's why I chose that, yeah.
I'm coming back with the Atlantic Ocean next week.
That's awesome. Cool. Well, Glen, Eric, thanks so much. This was a lot of fun. Eric, thanks so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
No worries. Thank you guys very much for having me. It was awesome.
Awesome, everybody. So if you are looking for Glen or I or Eric and you want to check out Strata Internal Performance, you can find us in Newmarket at 17705 Leslie Street. Glen and I and Eric, we all want you exercising pain-free. And we really appreciate you guys checking out the show. You can find us anywhere podcasts are, Minds on Muscle. And if you found this episode interesting, please give us a 5-star rating so more people can find us. The more people that find us, the more they hear our awesome content, and we really appreciate it. Glen, it was nice seeing you through the screen.
Nice seeing you through the screen. I'll see both of you fellas tomorrow.
I want to get you on an iPad and one of those little robot things so you can like cruise around the facility and we can do like a walking episode. That would be amazing.
Amazing. We should also all get hoverboards for the facility so we can just float around the hoverboards. We'll go full tech.
Hoverboard podcast. All right, yeah. Glen, have a good one. Eric, thanks so much.
Take care, guys.
Yeah. Take care.